in terms of seriously getting after terror groups, first thing that Pakistan has to do is to ensure that all terror groups are treated as pariah in their own country. Then only will Pakistan benefit, then only will rest of the world benefit.
General Pervez Musharraf, former military dictator, president, after Peshawar sought to shift the blame on India. Hafiz Saeed spoke exactly the same language. Now, as a soldier, you know, unless you realize there is a problem, you don't attack that problem and you don't solve that problem. So is Pakistan not even realizing there is a problem?
I don't give much to what Musharraf Sahib is saying. He's a sick man. He's been under a lot of pressure. He can utter anything. Let's not give too much credence to what he's saying. I think in Pakistan itself he's become unimportant, and I don't think we have to make him important again. Where Hafiz Saeed is concerned, we know what he is. So there is nothing that is there in which we should take their statements differently. We should look at what the Pakistani official establishment is doing. That is what should be an indicator as to how they want to treat terror.
And on ground, they've taken no action against India-centric terror. On ground, what would India expect, that demonstrable action that Pakistan should take, that you decide that, okay, now is time we can resume dialogue with Pakistan?
See, I think the first thing that should happen is stop treating terror as a state policy. Somewhere, I think one finds that terror is being used as a tool to further certain state objectives. Whether it is fanning trouble in Jammu and Kashmir, we have found the way things increased when the elections came up, and yet we had 65% voting. So this realization must come. And I think the turning point should have been Peshawar. Hope it is. I can only say that earlier we see the Pakistani official establishment, along with their army, and rest of the people who make for decision making, getting after terror groups, making it visibly such that people realize that they are serious. I think then things will become different.
Who should government of India be talking to? Once again, because Abdul Basit here said that you talk to the elected representatives. But elected representatives almost seem to wield no power in Pakistan. In fact, now that they have military courts, army seems to be all-powerful. Should your government, and would your advice to the government be, as a minister, that you should at some level start engaging with the Pakistan army?
Gaurav, governments talk to governments. Elected governments talk to elected people. So let's not get their army into it. I'm sure the Prime Minister of Pakistan is capable, if he wants to ensure that required reins are put on the army.
We are talking about the role United States and India can play together in combating terror. A major source of this terror is Pakistan, whether it's the US, whether it's India. In fact, I was attending the David Coleman Headley trial in that Chicago courtroom, Tahawwur Hussain Rana, and the case where Tahawwur Hussain Rana was found guilty was actually spreading terror in Copenhagen. So Lashkar-e-Taiba now has the might to hit the US. They have sleeper cells in US. They can hit Europe. They can easily hit India. What role can India, Europe, US play together to combat Pakistan-sponsored terror?
See, once you say this is global war on terror, I think everybody has to come together. You have to share intelligence. You have to ensure that that intelligence is not post the incident as it happened in 26/11, but it is pre the incident so that required measures can be taken. You have to get after various sources of funding that take place at various places in the world. You have to get after various places where the accounts are held. And you have to get after, in the civic manner, in booking people who you feel are the ones who are cause or are going to cause terror. So, global terrorism requires global cooperation, whether it is cooperation between the US and India, whether it is between Europe and India, everybody has to come together. I think if that approach is taken, then we will see results.
US President Barack Obama is going to touch down on the 25th. terror is that top on the agenda when he meets Prime Minister Narendra Modi? What is the terror mechanism? How does that come together in the times to come?
See, we have a strategic partnership with the US. There are certain things which have been laid down it. There are certain things which are shared between us. But I'm sure when you are looking at becoming partners in fighting terrorism, certain things have to be upgraded. I'm quite sure if this issue is discussed, many more things will come out which we will see after the visit is over.
Okay. You rightly pointed out about 2611, General, that intelligence came, but it came immediately after the terror had started. The terror attack started, and that's when both Europe and America gave a lot of intelligence. Has this cooperation reached a level that the intelligence has helped prevent a terror attack?
See, I don't think we have come to that level. But there is a information sharing mechanism that is in place which can be much better. And that is what cooperation is called for. In any case, I would say that our relationship with the US over a period of time has, gone up and down. There were certain US presidents who placed relationship with India at a much higher altar, at a different level than what the others had done. I think it is in the strategic interest of the US to upgrade a relationship which is not transactional in nature, which is not quid pro quo in nature. If that happens, it benefits the US in the long term, and it helps India in ensuring that it can come up in a manner in which it is not always accepted to yield to a transaction or do a quid pro quo.
In the past, there was always this tension that America wanted India to continue talking to Pakistan at all costs, so that American war in Afghanistan could continue. Is that kind of pressure still there, or does America better appreciate India's stand now? And with Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Barack Obama, do you see that relationship come even closer?
See, I think this realization has always been there. But then their only supply line was through Pakistan. So therefore, Pakistan got the type of aid that it wanted. Pakistan got the type of assistance that it wanted. It got the money that it wanted. Because you had to maintain that pipeline. It is in the later part that US realized that it has to find an alternative. So you find the northern route being worked out. They could have worked it out earlier. They could have worked out many more options. I think a lot of people, probably in the US, realized that this mistake has been there. They were in a position where it was difficult for them to not yield to the arm twisting that used to take place. Convoys will get targeted. How do you target convoys if they're being given security guarantee by the host country? So these doubts have always been there. And I certainly feel that when this realization is coming in, they would do much more to apply the required pressures, which they have, number of them in their armory, if I can call it, to ensure that there is compliance of what they want or what the world wants.
Okay. You were talking about this supply route to Afghanistan, and let's now talk about Afghanistan. Pakistan has targeted Indian interests in Afghanistan repeatedly. We've lost a defense attaché, we've lost diplomats. There was an attack on our consulate in Herat. As the US forces draw down in Afghanistan, what role do you see India and Afghanistan play together? And is there fear that Pakistan could once again try, in whatever form, try and get their strategic depth once again?
See, and this is what at times a lot of people don't understand, our relations with Afghanistan are not what have happened recently. They're age-old relations, they're civilizational relations, they're cultural relations. Afghanistan has always been important to India. In this, at some point of time, somebody in Pakistan injected the strategic depth issue. And therefore they started meddling in the affairs of Afghanistan. We know who supported Taliban, what actually happened, who armed them, etc., etc. Where Afghanistan is concerned, it is India's desire to see a stable, peaceful, progressing Afghanistan. A lot of work has been done. A lot of democratic institutions have been rejuvenated out there. And that is what we want to see, that it is a country which is able to stand on its own. At the moment, it's a rentier state. It requires a lot of aid from all over. This notion of strategic depth has to go. This notion that you can interfere in the affairs of Afghanistan from Pakistan side has to go. And
How?
see, this is where the world community comes in place. Today, there are 30 plus countries which are giving assistance to Afghanistan. A certain amount of capacity building mechanism is going to remain in Afghanistan. A certain assets of the US are going to remain in Afghanistan. Where India is concerned, we have always embarked on developmental and capacity building aid to Afghanistan, which will continue.
Should we then upgrade that aid to military hardware and not restrict it to small arms, but even tanks and artillery that they require? Either we supply them directly or through friendly countries?
I don't think we have to do that. There are enough countries in the world whose interest is to ensure that the Afghan National Army becomes capable of safeguarding the interests of Afghanistan. And I personally feel the type of aid that we are giving, which is what is winning the hearts and minds of people, is very good. We are doing a lot of capacity building, whether it is education, whether it is ensuring that the telecommunications get through. We have made beautiful roads out there. So all this counts. And where military aid is concerned, the UK has put up, and the US, they have combined to put up a small academy for training officers out there. So there's a lot of work that is happening. And I'm sure as part of this, all these nations whose stakes are involved because they've put in so much of money, they will ensure that whatever requisite capabilities are required, they are provided.
And India will not get edged out of Afghanistan. $2 billion worth of aid. Our aid is not restricted to just money, but the clout to strengthen the people of Afghanistan. That will continue and Pakistan will not succeed in edging us out?
See, if you are conforming to what the international norms are, you are part of that community which is ensuring that Afghanistan stands its own, and the Afghan leaders know about it, nobody is going to edge you out. I'm quite sure. I mean, we have seen how the things have gone on during President Hamid Karzai's period. We can see how things are now proceeding during President Ghani's period. I'm quite sure everybody knows the good intentions of India, and that is what counts.
Pakistan has also decided to ban the Haqqani network, and many see this as American pressure, along with Jamaat-ud-Dawa and a number of other terrorist organizations. In the appreciation of your government, sir, does this also remain only on paper, or do you think in the times to come there would be action against the Haqqani network and the Quetta Shura?
We hope that there is action. We are seeing certain banning that is taking place. Let things become more visible. I'm quite sure once things become more visible, we will see the results.
Unlikely that there will be much change from Pakistan side. Unlikely. You alluded that in your interview. Then our attitude towards armed state treaty and hence the proliferation of arms in India. Our attitude towards money, black money being one of them. Our attitude towards the criminal organizations and the way they get mixed up with the domestic politics. Case of West Bengal is quite evident. Is there something that we can do in these three areas so that Pakistan does not get a ready-made fodder, ready-made material where the terrorist activity will flourish? Because if all this is not there, he'll have to send a lot of resources, a lot of effort for any terrorist act to take place.
Sir, that is why I said that if you are treating the global war on terrorism on a serious note, then there has to be cooperation to ensure all these things, whether it is proliferation, whether it is trafficking of weapons, whether it is illegal trade of weapons, whether it is the nexus between the criminal and the terrorist groups. All this has to be clubbed and looked at on a scale where there is cooperation between all players in the international forum. And it is something which has to be at the executive level. You know, we can keep discussing, we can keep having conferences. They don't yield results. I think where global war on terrorism is concerned, each country which takes part in it or becomes part of fighting it must have small executive groups which should be able to go through and bypass the wide channels that have been laid down for quicker action.
Jal Hasnain.
Thank you, Gaurav. Firstly, sir, it's an honor to be at the questioning end rather than to be at the answering end, which we were in the earlier relationship, sir. My two questions basically relate to, first one, to the Indo-US military-to-military relationship. Something which has not been spoken about this whole morning and afternoon so far. I'd like to remind you, 1991, the Kicklighter proposals, based upon which the entire relationship, military relationship started, and on the back of that, the political relationship actually moved forward. Now, you as an expert virtually, having done the Rangers course, having done the US War College, I'm sure you'll agree with me, sir, that with my experience, I also feel that even 20 years down the line, any time the United States had officers or the military ever had to meet officers of the Indian Army or the Pakistan Army, they would always prefer to go to the Pakistan Army, never to the Indian Army. We always experienced it everywhere we went, sir. Why is it that we have never been able to get our act together? And Ambassador Nirupma Rao is here, and I'd like to bring her into it to say, what about the Indian Embassy in Washington? We've got one military attaché and a dog, nothing else. We need to have a large establishment there to get this relationship going, because ultimately you have to remember that it is military diplomacy which finally runs political diplomacy. And that is the answer to it. I think we've been found wanting in this. And my second question, very brief one, sir. I think there could be no one better than you to answer a question on Kashmir. My perception is that Kashmir today is a part of the overall war on terrorism. We are at the last mile. How would you say that the conflict stabilization stage that we are in today can be transformed into the conflict resolution stage?
Let me tackle the first one first. Atta, it is like this, that somehow, unlike Pakistan, our relationship with Pentagon has been very weak, military to military. Whether it was the so-called subconscious fear that the military will do